here at CBN TV. Morgan Heritage till year 3000 and beyond. Bram Morgan said that. See it? Blessings.
Good evening. I'm Jody Ann Quarry. As the year comes to a close, many of us are making plans for change. Resolve to save more, eat better, work smarter, and live differently. Yet year after year, the pattern is the same. We know what to do, and we still don't do it. Tonight, we ask a harder question inside the show. What if the problem is not a lack of information, but the way our lives and our systems are designed? Because from personal habits to national policy, failure is too often explained as a moral weakness, a lack of discipline, a lack of will. But what if the story is wrong? Tonight, we examine why change is so hard for individuals and for the country. This is Lead Story. Inside today's edition of the show, we're talking about what you know and what you don't do. We live in an age of information. We know what healthy eating looks like. We know how to budget. The consequences of bad habits. You hear them all the time. And yet, knowing doesn't always translate into doing. Why? We're exploring that today, and joining me on Zoom is counseling psychologist at the Phoenix Counseling Center, Dr. Patrice Charles King, and psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott. Good evening and welcome to you both.
Hi, evening.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Patrice Charles King, let me start off with you because everybody has great plans. But as we start now looking at what we want to change, people are very geared up, not only from an individual level, but from a national perspective. Is it really a difficulty us changing because we lack motivation, or is it something else?
I think it can be something else. I think especially in January, like we're really motivated to make all of these changes in our lives. I think the motivation is real, but I don't think we make those decisions from structural standpoint. We more make it from an emotional standpoint. And so when we get into February, like in January, everything is driven. It's a fresh start. You have the social pressure of starting over. There's a lot of hope, there's a lot of intention. And then as February comes around, your bills return, your work stress increases, fatigue sets in, and you realize that your old environment actually remained. It didn't change. So that's when you understand that motivation alone can't survive in an unchanged condition. And a lot of the times we think that we fail, but it's not really that we failed. What we failed to do was to create a system and a structure in order for what it is that we needed to do to survive, to continue.
That system and that structure would be so important for many people, Dr. Patrice Charles King. We also have some data here inside Lead Story about that, because you spoke about how people are likely to fall off the kind of goals that they set at the very beginning of the year. And so we do have some information that shares how people fall apart with these great goals, dreams, and aspirations that they have. At the very beginning, you have about 90% of people who give up on their New Year's resolutions, and only 10% keep their New Year's resolutions. All the great jobs that they have, all the great aspirations that they have, Dr. Charles King, fall apart. But you said systems are in place. Why do you say that?
Need to do instead of they're relying on motivation instead of systems. So the motivation starts the change, but the structure sustains it. And so that's what people need to. That's what you really need to understand. A lot of the times, we say that we lack discipline. and you either have discipline or you lack discipline. But yeah, I also believe that discipline is the outcome of our brain function, our stress levels, the environment that you're in, access to certain things, and most importantly, the structure that you create. So I think what happens is that when people fail to recognize what discipline really is, we move from understanding the behavior of people and we begin to judge people. That's where that judgment comes in.
I think that judgment is important, Dr. Walcott, when we talk about how people feel themselves and how others feel about their willingness and ability to follow up with the plans that they have. Talk to us about some of the things that might get in the way. Poverty, fatigue, constant decision making. How do those sorts of things impact our ability to have these great plans, these great goals for ourselves, and yet fall short?
Well, I think one of the most important and critical things is, as Dr. Charles King has said, is a lack of systemization of a change process. And I don't think we quite understand exactly what that means. If you look at something like weight loss, and people tell you that dieting causes weight loss, persons would then go and change their dietary intake to something that is drastic, not attainable, but is effective in the short term for reducing weight. And then they are surprised when that weight comes back on in 2 or 3 folds. Because it's not about doing something in the moment or in an isolated instance. It's about incorporating a new way of living. And I think that's where sustainability comes through, that you really have to incorporate new systems of daily life where it is sustainable and it's a part of your new routine. It's not just a fad that you take up for the moment to achieve a specific goal. But for you to be able to change something, you have to actually restructure your entire way of thinking, your way of being, and your way of integrating with others. And it also comes in terms of the issue of judgment. The truth of the matter is that in most instances, external pressure, despite what we may think, only tends to be effective in negative issues such as substance abuse and other high-risk behaviors. When it comes to positive reinforcement, it's not as effective. Positive change invariably has to come from within, and it's about not just knowledge, but insight. It's about the person making an emotional and intellectual connection with where they want to be and what they have to do, and that takes a lot of time.
That takes a lot of time, but it also takes that structure that you spoke of. And we have some insight to share here inside Lead Story, because what actually drives change, we've found, is a result of good choices made easier, bad choices costing more, being more difficult, putting them out of your way, stability driving, so replacing survival mode, and incentives rewarding action. That conscious rehabilitation of a life, Dr. Walcott, is what you spoke about. Talk to me, though, about some people who, honestly, they're under stress, they're under pressure. They can't make the sort of consistent, smart decisions that they'd like to, because they really, really are going through it. So how do things like stress and cognitive overload affect the kind of decision making and therefore the kind of plans that they might have to be better and live better lives?
No, but we are aware that, and not just stress, but emotional distress. In fact, feelings of sadness, hopelessness can affect not just your perception of your reality, but also the trajectory with which you see yourself going. So we know those things are impactful. And in that instance, it's really a matter of getting more a professional intervention than it is finding self-motivational drives, because those things impair your ability to actually function in terms of cognition and in terms of the real world. But the reality is, as we said, if you're going to impact change, it has to come from an awareness that your entire way of perceiving yourself, perceiving the world, and dealing with things has to shift permanently and significantly for you to have anything concrete.
Permanently and significantly, Dr. Patrice Charles King, people are looking now at the start of a new year, not only for themselves, but they have goals, dreams and aspirations for their companies, for their families, even for their country. What are some of the changes that you think people need to see that they put in place so that they can say, you know what, the kind of work that I need to do can actually bear fruit, and I won't be one of those 90% that fall through on my New Year's resolutions?
First is having a realistic expectation of what it is that you can do. And secondly, I think one of the things that we have to understand is that chronic stress creates it's almost scientific. So when chronic stress creates your brain shifting into almost like a survival mode, and when your brain shifts into survival mode, your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for planning and impulse control and just long-term thinking, becomes less effective. So just because you have information, it's not necessarily going to work. So I think what we need to understand is we need to create a type of environment, and again, a routine, one that is realistic, one that contains a structure so that you can actually develop a good habit. Something that you can consistently do and repeat in a realistic way, because knowing better doesn't always translate into doing better, especially if you are in survival mode. You're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to be tired, and you're going to be demotivated. So I think going into this new year, one of the things that we have to do is give ourselves some grace. Give ourselves some grace period, and understanding that even when you set a goal of, I'm going to go to the gym every day, understand that life is lifing.
Well, Dr. Charles King, hold on. We have a graphic here that's saying exactly what you said, because people might say they want to go to the gym or they want to eat better. But if you're tired, you're coming home, you're late, you're making those sorts of bad decisions because you're exhausted. We have those sorts of great plans. But as you said, well, look, if the reward after a stressful day is to go get that KFC or Burger King, then it's very hard to then look at somebody and say, get rid of that reward when you're trying to make it through a long day, or skipping exercise, for example, is your ideal. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And understand that, sometimes what we do is when we're mentally depleted, we don't choose what's best all the time. We choose what's easiest. That's what we have, and that's just a very normal human thing to do. Every decision that we make uses mental energy. And at the end of the day, we're just exhausted. So we move into choosing what's easier for us. So chronic stress reduces self-control. So it's not that even that you're lazy, it's just that if you are under chronic stress, it's going to reduce your control. So one of the things, the best gift that we can give to ourselves is structure to help to reduce the stress, more organization in our life.
Well, we'll talk about that in a few moments as we take a break here inside Lead Story, because somebody's at home going, a little more discipline would help all of these people. We'll speak to the psychiatrist after the break about what discipline means as we look at what we know and what we don't do coming up to the new year here inside Lead Story.
Double the holiday cheer with Frigidaire. Christmas is a time for sharing with family and friends. And this Christmas, Singer gives you a chance to double the holiday cheer with Frigidaire. Buy any Frigidaire item from Singer, value $30,000 or more plus GCT from December 6th to January 10, and get a chance to be one of 6 winners to share $500,000 in prizes. Upgrade your kitchen with our main prizes of a 5-burner stainless steel stove or a side-by-side refrigerator, or get one of the consolation prizes of a freezer or microwave. Shop now. Conditions apply. See the press for details. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting Game and Lotteries Act.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
This holiday season, CVM brings you the magic of togetherness. Holiday movie magic.
Now that is good. Miss Claire, I need you to come back here more often.
So many memorable films celebrating Black love, laughter, and legacy. December 19th through January 2nd. Catch them in prime time and rewatch all day on the holidays.
Counting on that.
From all of us to all of you. Enjoy CVM's Holiday Movie Magic, brought to you by singer Chris and Charles.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
We're looking at behavior change and what it is that you can do and what the country can do going into 2026. And often we talk about discipline, as if some people simply have it and others don't. But behavior science suggests something very different. We're speaking with consultant psychologist Dr. Patrice Charles King and psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott this evening inside Lead Story to talk about behavior change and what it is that you need to know as we look at your decisions for the year to come and the country's decisions for the year to come. Dr. Jeffrey Walcott, is it just more discipline, more grit, more bearing down and bearing through that gets people to now achieve their goals?
I mean, to some degree, persons who have a level of impulse control, focus, follow through, tend to be able to get things done more consistently. But I think putting the whole discussion in that realm, it lends to a bit more of, righteous indignation and a little bit of narcissistic flagellation to persons who are not able to follow through, because failure is not a negative thing. Failure is a growth opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to understand what your limitations are, to make adjustments and to try again. We keep having this need to bash people for their inability to get things done right the first time. And maybe in some instances, for example, we talk about the gym. Persons who have started the gym and not able to follow through. Maybe the gym is just not for you. Maybe exercise pattern that you require is not within that space, right? Maybe it is something like a sport or some other physical activity that is not in the traditional sense. Maybe it's just not your cup of tea. But the need to highlight people's inability to follow through on these issues as a moral issues, to me, it is often disturbing and distressing, and it is not productive. I think one of the things we have to realize is that discipline is not innate. You're not born with it.
Can you say that discipline is not a personality trait then,
no,
Dr. Walker?
Not innate. You have to develop it, and you usually develop it over time through socialization, first through parenting, through schools, through your social group. So, and persons do have problems that impact their ability to develop discipline because they have impulse control issues, which oftentimes may be due to either biological, psychological, or social issues. But discipline itself is a learned behavior. You don't learn to be disciplined.
I love that you said that, Dr. Walcott, because so many people, they assume that you just have it or you don't. And if you don't, a lot of shame comes with that, a lot of self-judgment comes with that, and judgment from others. Does that then help anything? Does that help you if you are shamed or if you get pressure, especially from the outside, for you to improve the behavior, or does that make change even harder?
I don't think any of the psychological texts have found that negative reinforcement is anyway effective. I think more positive reinforcement has been shown to be effective in behavioral change. The shaming thing doesn't really work in most cases. I don't know if Dr. Charles King has any studies that would suggest otherwise, but from my understanding, and more importantly, there's a program called the Scared Straight program that was trying to do the same thing for children who had behavioral challenges and were at risk for violent behavior. And what they found is that when they put them in these Scared Straight program, the children ended up being worse. So
And
I'm not very.
Is that the U.S. program that had young juvenile offenders or those who are at risk of juvenile offenses brought into adult correctional facilities and shown what the end result of their lives would be? And instead of it being something that would, as adults thought, change their behavior, some of them were more impressed.
I think
it made them criminal.
Dr. Charles King, you have any results that say otherwise?
No, I think shame, I'm a strong believer that shame shuts down change. Shame doesn't build discipline. Support and structure builds discipline.
Absolutely.
All right.
I agree with you completely.
Dr. Charles King, let's broaden this a little bit, because we will have discussions about the kinds of things that we do here as a country. Disposing of garbage, for example, is something that's often talked about. Other sort of societal behaviors that stem from individual habits. Is it a matter that you just can encourage people to make the sorts of changes, or you need to put environmental things in place or friction that makes it more difficult to do the undesired behavior, to move people into another direction?
You know, I think you're probably talking about like even willpower. Like you could have the greatest intentions and that intention will become irrelevant if you want to eat healthy. Everyone knows that healthy foods are the most expensive foods. It's not easy to access it. You're talking about you want to be healthy, you want your children to get off of social media and go outside and play, but you live in a community where gunshots is rampant. You live in a hostile environment. So you don't have any safe spaces to go and exercise and to go and enjoy outside, right? You're working multiple informal jobs. So when it comes to rest, you're getting like 2-3 hours a day. You know, your work hours are unpredictable. So you could have the greatest intention and it just becomes irrelevant. And so you're not failing because you lack discipline. You're failing because your environment is literally working against you. So you can't willpower your way out of a hostile environment. And that's something that it's again, you have to give yourself some grace, work with what you have, and little by little in a very realistic way, find a way to create a structure that works for you.
And we have a graphic up on screen talking about this willpower discussion that you are raising here versus systems, making it very clear that you can't just grit your teeth and bear through some of the more difficult things by saying try harder, be more disciplined, or use motivation. But instead, those systems that you spoke about at the very beginning, along with Dr. Walcott, are things that are going to help us do better, make better choices, and to have the kinds of lives that we want to have. Dr. Walcott, before we go, let me just pull you in here, because people are now listening to this conversation going, all right, we know what will not work. But I'm looking at the start of 2026 and I feel it might be a good year for me, Dr. Walcott. What advice do you have for someone looking on saying, all right, how do I make this work then?
I think one of the important things that we recognize that we have to tap into resources that we have. We have huge communities of persons who have been able to make changes, who are able to facilitate teaching, mentoring, and these things are important. As Dr. Charles King said, the issue of support, the issue of connectivity, the issue of the flow of knowledge, finding someone that you emulate in the particular way, and having discourse, having discussion. When it comes to cultural shifts and cultural changes, especially at the community level, because you're talking about garbage and issues like that, building stronger community bonds, fostering feelings of investment in one's own community. These things help to transform the person's mind where they have little to no regard for their environment to one where they take pride in it. And we know that a lot of these cultural changes and cultural shifts are possible, and they require minimal political will. They just require organization and collaborating with persons who are already doing some of the work in the communities to effect these changes. So if you want to talk about sustainable change, it's really about connectivity of like-minded people and social reinforcement in terms of the support for that behavior.
I think that's so powerful because it says then that this community approach is one that gets us all together where we want to go. Dr. Patrice Charles King, any advice for anybody looking right now at the start of a new year going, I want to make changes. I've heard what you said about systems being important. What is it that you have as advice for them before 2026 begins?
We want better outcomes from health to productivity to personal growth. I think what we need to do is start asking ourselves some different questions, or asking your family and friends different questions. What pressures are you under? What are the systems that are missing right now? What barriers make discipline harder? And when you start asking the right questions, you start, implementing better answers, which creates better actions for us all.
I think it's going to be so important for us to look at that knowledge versus action distinction, and that systems in fact do matter as we have this sort of conversation today, a powerful one with the consultant psychologist Dr. Patrice Charles King and psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott, spending time here before we look to the end of the year as we're starting to write our lists, trying to figure out what it is that we want to do better. They're emphasizing not only from Dr. Walcott that community matters, that there are people who have done this sort of thing that can be your help and guide, but Dr. Patrice Charles King making it very clear that we absolutely need to be very, very clear about the systems that we put in place to support us during this time. Thank you both so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
All right.
We're going to take a break and come back to you, because these sorts of things don't just show up in people. They show up in countries as well. And Lead Story is committed to making sure that not only you are better, but our country is better. So what are the things that we can do differently as a country going into 2026? We'll talk about that next.
As a fitness guy, I was surprised by my chronic illness diagnosis. I thought working out harder would fix it, but it wasn't enough. Now, my prescription meds are a part of my routine.
When I got my diagnosis, I really felt down and stopped spending time with the people I love. Then I decided not to let any disease get the best of me. And I'm committed to taking my meds as prescribed.
On time, every time.
No hesitation. Take your medication. A message from the NHF. NHF is here for health. NHF is here for you.
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm closer, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
What is it like to know better but not necessarily do better? Well, countries like people often have no shortage of reports, data, and recommendations. And yet, action is delayed, sometimes even for years. And we've been talking about some reports that have been on the table for years. Why is that happening? Well, we're talking about that now. Joining me on Zoom is economist Sandra Roden, and via telephone, political activist and analyst Dr. Nadine Spence. Dr. Nadine Spence, let me start off with you this evening. Now, our governments, as they look at all the reports that they have, all the things that they know, all the feedback that they received, are they usually failing because they don't know what to do, or because incentives to do the things that are in some document on some paper somewhere don't align with action? Dr. Spence? So Dr. Nadine Spence is here with us. We also have Sandra Roden on with us as well, talking to us about the implications of these sorts of things, because we're focused today on what countries are to be doing when you look at the kind of behavior change, as we had in the first two segments, talking about what it is that they need to do better, that sort of alteration that needs to be put in place. We'll be rejoined momentarily by Dr. Nadine Spence and Sandra Roden as they talk to us about the broader political and national implications. But we thought it was important, as we move to the start of a brand new year, to discuss what it is that we know and what is it that we don't do. Are we rebuilding in flooded areas? Yeah, we do that. Unfortunately, we know that these areas flood. We've just had Hurricane Melissa. The year before we had Hurricane Beryl, and we've known that even a good rain could cause problems in some communities. Yet, some people rebuild. We know that as a nation, we have high rates of non-communicable diseases, including diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. And yet, people still doing the kind of behaviors that they know are harmful and then putting stress on our public health system. So we know these sorts of things. We have an education report that tells us about the deficiencies in our education system, and yet as we put things in place, some will argue that we're not putting them in place quickly enough. So what does it mean for a country to know and to be aware of some of the challenges that they have and yet not put them in place? Now, we have some graphics up for you for this sort of discussion as we speak with economist Sandra Roden. Hello, Mr. Roden. Welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers.
Thanks so much for joining us, because today we're talking about behavior change. And as a country, we're looking at the kinds of things that we can do to change the way that we operate and move into a country that helps to better support us. Let me give you the big question. Is it a matter that we're short of resources? Is that lack of data, a lack of documents, some sort of report that gives information? Or is it that the incentives for politicians and for government to make the sorts of changes doesn't align with the incentives?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, if we're being totally honest. When we look at resources, we are woefully lacking in resources in certain areas, and that is true. But as it relates to our country as a whole, we have a lot that we could do, a lot of small changes that we could see that could happen throughout society if we had the will to do it. And I'm not talking about just the will of the populace, but the political will as well. And there's one issue that I'd bring out at the start, which is just garbage. Like driving on the road, you'll just be going about your business and you see somebody just throw something out their window. Is that something that as a society we should, allow to continue? And then we speak about a garbage problem, then the people blame the government if the government collections are not on time, etc. But the very same people are throwing the cups from the fast food restaurants right through the windows on the middle road. And you see this not just in one parish, but you see it when you go here, there, everywhere, and you wonder, is it something small that could change? And can Jamaica manage the change? And I say yes. Plastic straws. They did it. We did it. When last have you experienced a plastic straw, Jody? That's the question you have to ask yourself. We did that. Why can't we do some other things? It comes down to that will of the people and the will as well of the politics and the politicians to get certain aspects, certain small things that could have a big impact on our society.
I think it's so important that you've used garbage as an example, because it's one that came up as we spoke about people and them making behavioral change real as well. We have with us also Dr. Nadine Spence. Dr. Spence, as we look at things that the country is doing and hearing Sandra Roden talk about behavioral change in the context of pollution here, garbage pollution, throwing things away here in Jamaica, we're often having a discussion about, is it a lack of knowledge that people have when we're looking at these sorts of issues, or is it a design failure? Is it that we should have, as a society, more garbage receptacles around, more public education around this, something that the government can do in order to incentivize people to act better?
I think it's a combination of all of those things, Jody. I think that we are not hearing enough information around or seeing enough information around, for example, about the sources of garbage disposal. I also think we don't have enough receptacles anywhere in Jamaica. I think when you walk around, it's very rare that you will find garbage receptacles in public that are not full to overflowing or not torn apart, or not placed in areas that are not convenient for you to dispose of the garbage. When you go to places that we admire and we would like to emulate, one of the things you find out is how present garbage receptacles are, for example, and how clean the place is. And in Jamaica, you get a sense that it's okay to dispose of garbage in a particular kind of way because of the behavior that is there before. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get people to do better, to change behavior. A lot of that is going to come from Jamaicans themselves wanting to change and seeing the need to do better. Because, how do you police an entire nation of people into changing behavior that is so ingrained? What is the methodology? What is the formula that you use? I'm sure there is one. I don't know if we can afford it, but I'm sure there is one. I don't know if it is that you institute a policy where you ticket or law where you begin to impose non-custodial kinds of sentences on people for some of the offenses. But I think there's a lot more that needs to be done.
I think it's important for us to then broaden this, because while we're talking about what people do, we've also spoken about what government and society can put in place. Dr. Nadine Spence, let's talk about government and let's talk about politics, let's talk about governance in this country, because some will argue that we make short-term decisions all the time politically, but these sorts of long-term reforms are not considered by us. Is this only one example of that sort of thing, where we can have and we could put in place some sort of policy system, even at the kindergarten level here, that allows for us to have this situation in a country that we want in 10, 15, 20 years, but we just don't want to think that long. The kinds of changes that we want just will take us much too long. Is that something that you see here as well? Dr. Spence? Well, let me turn to Sandra Roden then and ask him that. Do you believe then that we're a short-term thinking country, especially as a place that has elections every 5 years, Sandra Roden?
Repeat that one for me, Jody.
Do you believe that we're a short-term thinking country? The kinds of things that we have, the documents, the paperwork, all this feedback about what works well and what doesn't. Do you think that we're the kind of place that can put those things in place over a longer-term period of time? Or because we have elections every 5 years and you might have local government elections and you need to maintain this sort of touch with the people, that we think more short-term?
Indeed. I think we do think short term, but I'm saying this is a caveat. We do have the ability to think long term. Jamaicans are good at planning, are very good at planning. We have a whole institute for planning, and we have retreats, etc. for planning. We're good at planning. But a problem we have is continuance of said plans and the implementation of said plans over a long period of time. I go back to the whole garbage disposal example to say I remember the No Dirty Up Jamaica campaign, Why was that born? That was born because of the same issue that I stated. And yes, there was public education. It was going well. There was one point when we were doing the separation of plastics, etc. And it's mind-boggling for me that we just missed the mark. We went on a train, we were doing really well, and then we fell off. And I say that to say, I've seen certain areas in our society where separation of garbage works. While they're on a wide scale, you don't see it working. I've been to Costa Rica and I realized that is their new norm. That's their norm. You have spaces and receptacles for separation. You have 4 different receptacles for separation of garbage. That's what they practice. So yes, we do think short term because of all the other variables involved, but we can plan. But my issue is not just about the plan, but the implementation and the execution of that plan for our long-term benefit.
The execution of the plan for long-term benefit, those are really good ideas, especially as you highlight that we have a whole institute set up for planning here in Jamaica. So we clearly have that as a skill set that we could execute. But Dr. Nadine Spence, we're having this great idea for planning, this place set up for planning, this idea that we can plan. But our national failures, best understood as moral failures. Jamaicans just can't do that sort of thing. Jamaicans nasty. They won't be able to keep the place clean, or they won't be able to be anything but corrupt, or they won't be able to be anything but behind the times or not on time? Or are these design and structural failures that we need to understand them within that context as?
I think they're design failures in terms of the response in a lot of ways. I think we expect people to come up with the solutions too much. Like we're relying too much on the individual to find a solution. I think because so many people, in Jamaica we say 7 brothers, 7 different minds. I think because we know that people are individuals and people are more likely to do what is in their own best interest. When we think of the nation, we have to think about the nation's best interest, which is where I think planning and design comes in. Because the nation's best interest doesn't always work out to be the individual's best interest. And so, like, I'm coming from St. Elizabeth now, Jody. I went to visit my community, but along the way we are visiting communities as well that were impacted by the storm. And a lot of people are just living around garbage. I just came from Louisville where the market was destroyed, the town was destroyed, and nobody has cleaned up the town. But people are getting along with business amidst the garbage. I, on the other hand, have my garbage in my car driving back to Kingston because I couldn't find any place to dispose of my garbage, and I didn't want to chuck the stuff out of the car. We are good at planning, and we have lots of plans and lots of studies done, and I've heard that we've launched a plan for cleaning up the post-hurricane, post-Melissa reality. But a lot of the time, those plans don't trickle down to the people on the ground.
And I think that's the thing that we want to talk about next, because if we have these plans, what prevents us from executing these plans? We'll continue that into Lead Story next here on CVM Television.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Let's delve deep into the issues.
we'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah. Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
We're talking about what drives change as we continue our discussion about the kinds of change that we want to see for 2026, both in individuals and in our country. But if, as we have discussed throughout this entire show, both individuals and states struggle with change, the question becomes, what actually works? Let me put that question to you first, Sandra Roden. If we are going to see the changes that we want to see, not only in the way that individuals behave, but also in the way that the state behaves, using reports that it has, data that it has available to it to make the sorts of changes that we want to see, what needs to change for 2026?
Well, for 2026, from an economic perspective, behavior change in Jamaica is most effective when we stop viewing behavior as purely a moral issue and instead recognize that people do respond to incentives, information, social norms, and the structure of the systems in which they do operate. So the first thing we have to do is diagnose exactly why these behaviors persist. And as you said, utilizing data that is there to help to ground whatever theories or hypotheses that we come up with, and look at how it is that we can look at these systems where somebody is indisciplined, or there's non-compliance, or there is low trust in institutions, for example, and see what is the clear economic benefit to doing the right thing. That is engineering a better incentive or better systems for a person to behave differently. And we've seen countries do it, Nordic countries, for example, that have done that. So incentives can be financial, non-financial, social norms, what our culture reinforces. So we have to also train culture, which is why I think we have the values and attitudes program that, you know, that was another good initiative. But of course, that is not around in the way it was back then. So what do we need to do? We need to look to ensure that we have, I'd say, somewhat of a behavioral change index, which allows us to kind of test the impact from a government level of policy before it's rolled out nationally. What incentives work? How do we change behavior? How do we change social norms? How do we simplify it so that people can also access this type of change? Whether it's tax compliance, whether it's public sector productivity, whether it's recycling or financial responsibility, the principle would just be the same. If the desired behavior is hard, confusing, unrewarding, unsupported, people will default to familiar habits. But if we design systems where positive behavior is easier, it's more beneficial, it's socially visible, people like it, and it's reinforced over time, then we can have sustained change. So it's not just a short-term plan, Jody, it's a long-term plan where we look at what are the behaviors we want to change, we create an index around it, we make it simple, create the incentives, create the social norms, and then we reinforce it over time. In 10 years, we could have a different Jamaica on particular issues that are literally just behavioral change issues.
We could have that different Jamaica, but you, Sandra Roden, have given us a full roadmap of what that could look like. But you spoke of a program that no longer exists, a Values and Attitudes program that had been put in place by a previous administration. There has been talk constantly about bringing it back. Dr. Nadine Spence, Sandra Roden has given us the big roadmap, but part of it is also also referencing that we have had programs that have, to one degree or another, dealt with this sort of thing. Yet we have a stop-start sort of progress in many of these areas because they're not long-term, long-standing programs that do the kind of behavior change that we want to see. For 2026, what do we need to get right?
I think we need to get community mobilization, community empowerment right. I think we tend to think too much from the center, particularly because so many of us who are doing things are doing it from Kingston. I think when you move out of Kingston and you go into places like Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth and Hanover, where people in communities are making things happen, you realize that the information that we are discussing, that it's not impacting them, it's not a part of their lives. And I suspect that you might not even have to move that far. You might go into communities in Kingston where these ideas and these plans and these policies are not trickling to people. Because one, we're not using our system of government to get the information to people. We're too busy playing big politics. And I think if we start to work with how our governance structure is supposed to work. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We're continuing to hear you in studio, Dr. Nadine Spence, as you talk to us about big politics, but the practicality of working on the ground. Well, Dr. Spence did say that she was coming in from St. Elizabeth, and so that would be impacting her being able to talk to us. Are you still there with us, Dr. Spence? Yeah, we're still having comms issues there with Dr. Spence as she talks to us about some of the challenges that she sees as we are now looking at what we could get for 2026, talking to us about some of the behavioral changes that we could put in place as we prioritize government. Sandra Roden, though, that point that had been made by Dr. Spence, this idea that we're very focused on these sort of big picture, central government, Kingston sort of policies and ideas, well, means that there are several other places in Jamaica that don't feel the impact on the ground, and sometimes they don't even feel them in Kingston. What does this mean then for how government should design policy, bearing in mind that they have a full and complete country to govern, and various people will need different sorts of ways to then move into that successful behavior that you want to see from them?
I absolutely agree with Dr. Spence. I do applaud the Prime Minister, though, for coming up with this new arm of the OPM that Ambassador Audrey Marks should be in charge of as it relates to getting rid of red tape. Now, I mentioned that because that is a major part of how government misses the mark sometimes, and it's not because government wants to miss the mark. It's because we have in our subculture separation between certain agencies. We have in subcultures where some people think their job is more important than somebody else from some other aspect of government, and then you have a bit of friction that exists. So sometimes I've been in communities, to be particular, I've been in communities in rural areas where people can legitimately get help, and it is the same government agencies that could help that serve as roadblocks, and that says a lot. So yes, good policies have been implemented over the past couple of years. We've seen great fiscal policies, great economic policies. We've seen good policies in labor, social security, agriculture. I could name a lot, but the fact is, many times on the ground, there is that disconnect that exists. So as much as you want change, as much as you want behavioral difference, improvement, for example, as Dr. Spence says, you have to have a joint up government approach. You have to have the sense that policy is not just being implemented, but also evaluated at the ground level, wherein persons can actually test to see, is this something that is effective, or we're going to continue on this continuous wheel where we implement things. The Prime Minister announces, or a minister announces, or an agency CEO announces this great thing that could be transformational, but then the implementation is so poor at the ground level, so people don't feel it the way they ought to. So that is something that we have to look at as a nation as a whole. So when policy is implemented, it's not policy for JLP or PMP or policy for one agency, for one ministry, but it's a policy that's all encompassing that we should all own. And that comes again with behavioral change in public sector, wherein all aspects of public sector work together to implement key priority policies that the government has to implement.
And that harkens us back to our previous discussion about individual change and saying it's not just willpower, it's systems that will do this. Systemic changes that will make it possible for us to see the things that we want to see. Dr. Nadine Spence, if this is something that is possible, so again, we talked about how difficult it was to speak to Dr. Spence as she continued to travel from St. Elizabeth, impacted just recently by Hurricane Melissa. She's unfortunately no longer with us. Sandra Roden, before we leave then, talk to us. What's one, apart from the one that you talked about a moment ago with the now system that's been put in place for an overhaul, an assessment of public sector life headed by Ambassador Audrey Marks. What is one significant change you think could turn the lever, that could move the needle, could make some sort of impact for people in 2025?
In 2025 or
2026? There we go. See? different year, different movements, Andre Roden.
So I think generally what people want to see, particularly from government in many ways, is seeing that implementation and evaluation arm. I think what we've had in government is we've had a lot of plans, and a lot of persons would, when you go to them one-on-one and you say, no, but government has this, they said, no, but I went to the office and nothing is happening. So what we need to do, and it's something I'd say if I were a minister, there are some ministries I'd go in and I'd get people out there on the ground instead of sitting in offices, where we need to have a joint up government approach. I call it that, a joint up government approach, where policies implemented are policies that are evaluated.
Wow. Hold on. Don't walk around with that. Policies implemented are policies evaluated. Anything measured is what will improve, and that's certainly something that we'll take into our further conversations here inside Lead Story. Sandra Roden, economist, and with us previously we had Dr. Nadine Spence, political analyst. Thank you so very much for staying with us inside Lead Story. It was a big question for 2026. That's what we are coming out with. A big question for 2026. Not why don't Jamaicans try harder. It's what would make choices easier. We talk a lot about discipline, but far less about design. We blame people for